Does your dog refuse to eat out of his bowl? Or maybe he's a fussy eater? If so, stay tuned and we'll talk about it in today's Behavior Talk. If you have a dog who doesn't want to eat out of his bowl, or maybe sometimes eats his food, other times he doesn't eat his food, we're going to talk about some of the reasons why this might be happening. It's going to be a little bit of troubleshooting on your part, so these will be a few suggestions to look into to see if any of them help you and your dog. First things first is if your dog has a change in his behavior, meaning he always ate his food before and all of a sudden he's not eating it, then we want to dive deep and figure out, well, what's going on? We want to figure out, is it something medical or is it something with his actual food? Because a dog who normally eats and all of a sudden doesn't, something's up. That's not his normal. If you're feeding your dog a prepared food from the store, do a quick recall search. Make sure his food hasn't been recalled for any reason. Then you want to think about your dog's health. The very first thing that I would do is look inside my dog's mouth. Look at his teeth, look at his gums, smell his breath, see if he's dehydrated, check him out physically. If you see anything in his mouth, maybe his teeth are red, maybe they're bleeding, or he chipped a tooth, or his breath really stinks, then I would definitely take him into the vet and have his teeth checked out. He may actually need a dental or an extraction. The other thing to think about again, is there still another medical reason? Is your dog acting any differently? Is he hunched over at all? Does he seem a little more lethargic? Did he maybe eat something he wasn't supposed to eat? Did he chew up a toy and swallow a piece? Especially if this is a new behavior for your dog. If all of a sudden your dog isn't eating, there's a reason, and we need to figure that out pretty quickly. On the other hand, if this is something that your dog always does, he always refuses to eat, or he's always a picky eater, then we're going to look at some other things. So the first thing is, what's in the bowl? What are you feeding your dog? If you're feeding your dog a highly processed dry food, he may not like it. He may actually be getting belly aches from the food and you don't even know it. He's been eating it all his life, sure, but maybe he's always kind of felt a little nauseous about it, or it's always sitting really heavily inside his stomach. I obviously support fresh feeding, a species appropriate diet, a complete balanced raw dog food, or a complete balanced home cooked meal. That's always my preference, and probably your dog's preference too, because they have those canines for a reason. It's not to grind kibbles. Maybe you're not feeding your dog a dry food, but you're feeding them a wet food, which is usually better than dry food. But still, take a look at that ingredient panel. See what's inside of it. Is it meat? Is it mostly meat? We have carnivores at our feet, so they're really going to appreciate a really meaty diet. So you might want to reconsider what it is that he's actually eating. Next thing to think about is your dog eating too much? Maybe it's not so much the food, but the quantity of the food he's getting. Look at your dog's weight. Does he have an ideal weight? Looking at a dog's breed chart and looking at the breed average won't tell you if your dog's overweight or underweight. Take Dexter, for example. He's an almost 30-pound Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. The breed standard, 13 to 18 pounds. Is Dexter fat? Nope. Sometimes he might weigh an extra pound or two. Most of the time he's at his ideal weight for his length and height. So the way to tell is to look at that waistline. So when your dog is standing facing you, take your hands and go from his chest and move them down his body through his waist and hips. When you go down his body, you should be able to feel his ribs with a slight touch. They shouldn't be squishy where you're trying to push down to find those ribs, and they shouldn't be poking out where you can see every little bone in his body, unless maybe he's a sight hound. So go from his chest. When you get down to your dog's waist, there should be a little tuck in that waist. And if that's what you're getting, then he's at an ideal weight. If on the other hand, if you're finding that pudge in the rib cage and no dip and pudge during the waist, we might be a little heavy and he might not be hungry at all. So then I would suggest cutting back on his food calories. The next thing I look at is his eating environment. So during feeding time, what's the environment like? Are there other dogs running around? Is the cat pestering him? Is it noisy? Are the kids by the dog bowl? Is it loud? What's going on over there? A lot of dogs will stress out about all that chaos. So you want to have kind of a zen area where your dog's eating, nobody's messing with him, no other dogs are in his face, no cats are over there trying to sneak their way in, no kids are over there looking through, and you're not hovering over him either. Did you eat? Are you eating? Are you eating your food? We want him to be able to eat in peace. So look at that environment. That might be something that you can change. The next thing is let's look at his bowl. So what does his bowl look like And what does your dog's face look like? So for Dexter, with his long ears, sure, he wears a snood to hold those ears up so that they don't go in his bowl. The bowl height isn't very tall because we don't want him to go in and have to go in deep. So if his bowl's this tall and he's got to go way down in there to get to his food, that just might be a little too tall for him, and he might be a little uncomfortable and feel a little claustrophobic in there. So make sure that that bowl isn't too tall. Another thing to consider is your dog's collars, if he wears collars. I've seen a lot of dogs get spooked when they go to eat out of their bowl because their collars clank on it. So they go over to eat it and their collar's going clank, 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 and then they start to get a little nervous. You might even see them kind of doing one of these numbers. So think about that collar. It might be where he eats, you take off his collar. So you take off his collar before you feed your dog. Another thing to consider is the bowl and the reflection. So the stainless steel, although I love stainless steel bowls or aluminum bowls, which I don't like aluminum bowls, but they can be highly reflective. So your dog's going in there and they're seeing all these reflections of different things around in the house and the lights, and that can spook them. So they can get a little uncomfortable about that. So a nice matte bowl sometimes will do the trick. It might not be a bowl at all. You might start off with something flat. So if your dog's a little spooked about going into something, try a flat plate with a basic color or matte white. Usually won't reflect too much. The weight of the ceramic will help keep it in place. And the same thing with your bowl. If your dog's starting to eat and the bowl's moving around, that can be a little freaky too for the dog. So we want that bowl to be nice and secure. If that doesn't work, you can also look at the handy dandy paper plate. That's always an option as well, because sometimes just having something different that the dog's never touched before can kind of jumpstart getting your dog comfortable eating off of something. Think about the height of your dog's bowl and your dog's body. Ideally, when your dog bends over to eat, he's going to be at a relatively neutral position, not all the way down to the ground. So one, that's going to help the digestion and help prevent bloat because it's going to be at the best level for your dog. So you might have a raised feeder. You don't want it too high. I've seen that as well, where the dog's trying to get in there and it's just too high. So we're looking for the height where your dog just bends his head down and he eats in that nice, comfortable, neutral position. So look at that height. So now that you've decided on what bowl you want to try or what plate you want to try and what food you want to try, then we can work on reintroducing your dog to eating out of that container. If your dog has been spooked about the location of his feeding, then start this in a different location. If on the other hand, the location really hasn't been an issue, go ahead and start this at where he's normally eating. So I'd start by putting your bowl in your dog's feeding place. So you're going to take your dog's bowl, you're going to take your food of choice, and what you're going to do at the beginning is I would try hand feeding my dog. So I have the bowl and I'm just going to hand feed my dog a couple of his bites. If it's raw food, maybe you put it on a wooden spoon. Maybe you just suck it up and hold the food for a minute, whatever you feel comfortable doing. And then after a couple of bites from your hand, take that food and drop a couple of pieces into this bowl and then walk away. And don't stare at your dog and see what happens. Hopefully he'll go ahead and eat it. Then you can come back and you can drop some more food into that bowl and then leave, and then hopefully he'll eat it. If that works, then what you're going to do is you're going to gradually put more of that food down in that bowl right away. Instead of 3 little globs of food, you're going to go ahead and put half the food and then walk away. And then the full food and then walk away. Put your dog's food bowl down, put his food in it, and walk out of the room. Don't stare at him, don't look at him, don't pay any attention to him. Just go about doing your own business. If in 20 minutes he hasn't eaten the food, go ahead and pick it up, wrap it up, put it in the refrigerator, and then in another couple hours, give it another try. A healthy dog won't starve himself, so go ahead and try that throughout the day. So in a couple hours, go ahead and put it back down again, give him another 20 minutes as you step out of the room. If after 24 hours your dog still hasn't eaten, and you've gone through the other steps about ensuring that his environment's comfortable, safe, he doesn't feel stressed, he has the right food, he has the right bowl, he's been health checked by your veterinarian, you've already checked off all those, and you completed all those, and we know that we're good, Then I would go ahead and try to introduce a different type of food, maybe a new novel protein. So if you're feeding him a raw beef diet, try a raw rabbit diet or a cooked beef diet. Give him a different flavor or add some toppers on top of his food to boost up that flavor. Don't do this after you've picked up his food bowl and he refused to eat it. So you pick up his food bowl that he didn't eat and then put more food in it and then give it to him. You don't want to do that. You want to have a clear break between picking up his food, putting it in the refrigerator, and then later offering him a new food. Because you don't want him to go, well, I'm just going to wait out. So if you're going to try a new food or add a topper to your dog's diet, think about meats and warmth and aroma. These are things that might get your dog to start eating. If you find your dog's eating this new food or these new toppers, and for whatever reason it's really not something you want to feed your dog, after you get your dog eating it, and reliably eating it, then you can slowly, over the next, say, 1 or 2 months, transition your dog back to the food that you want to feed him. So if he's eating this food and you want him to eat this food, you're going to slowly add some of this food to that food. And again, over the course of 1 month to 2 months, depending on how picky your dog is. Now, when you add this food to that food, don't forget about calories. So when you add this food to that food, you're going to remove some of this food, but not too much because you want this to be the overwhelming flavor that he's getting right now. Below, I'll put a link to a book about resource guarding, and if that is the case, please seek a professional so that you can work through that issue. Don't try solving that serious behavioral problem alone. So hopefully you found these tips helpful, and don't forget to go through those steps. It can be so important for dogs to have a nice Zen lifestyle. So if that eating area is stressful, that's the very first thing to change. And be friends with your dog's veterinarian. You want to make sure that that health is in tip-top shape, and if not, it's something that you're addressing. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and you can click the bell icon and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to dive deeper into your dog's behavior, training, and care, check out my Patreon page. The link is below. Until next time, remember to pause and enjoy life, and we'll see you in the next video.
Let me tell you a story about the baddest dog there ever was. Sneaking food from the fridge, tearing up the garbage. He's a goofy old Dexter the dog. He's a bad Dexter the dog, the baddest pup that there ever was.